You have enough? More or less?
Next chair. Bring chair. Two. Let's join our hands, please. All assume attitude of prayer. Great God and Master of the universe, creator of all things. Father God, we come before you with your holy presence. As we continue, God, on our mission, thou hast called us, the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, led by our President General, Ansel George Rosie. Father, and as we come before your presence, oh God, we pray this morning, oh God, as we keep this media conference, oh Heavenly Master, that the word will go forth with might and with power, and touch the hearts of men in this country, touch the people of this country, oh God, that they would understand, oh God, and they would realize, oh God, the mistakes that have been made by those in authority. Father, you said for to pray for those in authority, but this morning as we pray for them, oh God, we pull down every stronghold and every bad influence over their lives right now, oh God. And we pray, oh God, that you give them a heart of flesh and not one of stone, oh Heavenly Master. Father, we pray, oh God, that at the end of it all, oh God, dear Heavenly Master, oh God, your name will be glorified, your name will be praised. Father, continue to put a hedge around our President General as he continue, God, to lead this noble organization, oh Heavenly Master, as we continue to fight for the working class. Father, we ask this in Jesus Christ's almighty name we pray.
Amen. Harry, and you can all take your seats. You understand? Are we ready? Are we ready? Yeah. All right. Good morning to you, members of the media, and let me welcome you and thank you for coming to cover another installment, and perhaps the first one where we will be putting the true picture as to the effect of that announcement that was made by the board of directors headed by its chairman on Tuesday. Yeah? On Tuesday, the chairman, one Mr. Wilfred Espionner, who has been appointed the chairman of the Petroleum Company of Trinidad and Tobago, he made an announcement to the union, the OWTU, as to the decision that was taken with respect to the future of Petrotrin. Now let me just backtrack a bit before I come to what that announcement was. of course, I would have relayed that announcement to the workers at Beaumont Hill right after the completion of that meeting. But today, this morning, we want to be very dispassionately examine thoroughly the true impact of the announcement, if they are allowed to get away with that, what Trinidad and Tobago would look like post the shutting down of Petrotrin. Last Tuesday, the 21st, the union, led by myself, President General, and 6 members of the union's executive, would have met with the Prime Minister on his request. And as I said, immediately following that meeting to the workers that were awaiting our coming back to report to them, that meeting really did not offer any details. And I'm going to go over it again because, you see, there are some people faced with the consequences now. They are trying to change the conversation and to redirect the narrative into some sort of foolishness. The Prime Minister said that the country don't need a refinery, that the refinery is the problem, that the loan was taken out, the 850 million US bullet payment that we have to pay by August next year, that will downgrade the rating of both Petrotrin and the country, and that we don't need a refinery in Trinidad and Tobago. We should be moving now to gas fuels, yeah? We don't need liquid fuels again. And he pointed to some countries in the region that have already moved to gas instead of liquid fuels. And even though his information was skewed and not correct, we listened. He did not say that they were shutting down the refinery. All of us we were present. He said that the country don't need a refinery. How we interpret that is to mean that we need a refinery, which we will talk about here. We still verily believe that the country must operate and own a refinery. And therefore, we interpret what he said to mean that it will be placed in the hands of some private interests. And that is what was reported to the employees. That the Prime Minister said that they don't need a refinery, that the refinery was the problem, and that many countries moving away to gas as a fuel, not liquids. And he pointed to some countries in the region. I want to be clear because we want to depart from this part of the conversation that would take up valuable time. You see, what they're trying to do, faced with the backlash now, because it is a backlash, they are trying to get themselves out of it. It would have made more political sense, more political value for me if he had said that to come and tell the workers immediately that he's shutting down the refinery and there will be no refinery again. He did not say that. And so I wanted to publicly say that for yet another occasion, on this occasion, this fella Franklin Khan, who his only concern is lease operators and farm out operators and the giveaway of the country's asset, that for yet another occasion he lied. And here's another lie he told. He said on Sunday that workers, the pay salaries of the workers represent 50% of the company's operating costs. After we would have produced a KPMG report dispelling that, here you have Franklin Khan coming back and putting that lie before the public again. How reckless and irresponsible could they get? That is the same man who told the country in the parliament that a particular lease operator would have increased its production by some 5,000 barrels. and praised up that lease operator in the parliament. We must not forget that, and that too was a lie. And in the face of what we were saying all the time, that something is radically wrong with the whole process of lease operatorship and farm out of the company's assets and so on. But that is the way they wanted to go from inception, and that is what Franklin Cann would have embraced. And we continue to point to certain people who would have left the company's employ, certain people who we sure that Franklin Cann has knowledge of, that would have left the company's employment with the well datas and the company's acreages and what is lucrative, what is not lucrative in their possession. And certain people who would have given that information to the lease operators and so on, so that the lease operators could be profitable and that the company's operation would suffer. We want to ask Franklin Cann if he know about anybody who would have committed that act of treachery against the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We want him to answer those questions. If he know anybody who left the company with its data, its information pertaining to the wells and give it to the company's competition. And so we want to say, Franklin Cann, stop lying. What you should do is tell the country what price we are going to pay for the gas coming out of that gas deal. That is what you're supposed to be disclosing to Trinidad and Tobago. And now everything is wrapped up in secrecy. And then you would have him and the Prime Minister say that because a Prime Minister before did it, it's okay to do it. While they would have condemned that then, it's okay because Prime Ministers before did it. We are in the age of transparency, and the country needs to know what they pay, what deal they sign, what is the impunity of that deal, and what taxpayers are expected to pay for the gas in that deal. Every single citizen in this country is supposed to know that, man. And so we want to dispel all of the nonsense talk or the attempt to change the conversation by saying that the Prime Minister didn't tell all of us, make any categorical statement that they're going to close down the refinery. Yeah? And we could have reported no such information to the workers. We interpret what they said that in a way that they are going to sell the refinery. I want to come to what he said finally, in the Prime Minister that is. He said the board will give you the details. They will arrange a meeting with the board. We will arrange for the board to meet us, and we will get all the questions that we would want to ask. The board will give us the answer to those questions. And that brings us to where we are right now. As I reported 2 days ago, the board presented 3 slides. We asked categorically, is this what you presented to the Prime Minister? The board confirmed that. They said that this is the exact presentation that we would have made to the Cabinet, which led to the Cabinet giving approval to effect these decisions. And it is 3 slides. Now, you would imagine something as serious as this, with consequences which we are going to outlay this morning, as dire as these consequences, 3 slides the Prime Minister and the Cabinet would have taken and agreed to shut down Petrotrin. And scenario 1, to continue business as usual. Scenario 2, transform financial performance of the organization with a reduced workforce of some 45% in the upstream and 10% in the downstream. Yeah? Total headcount reduction of 2,400. And that's your scenario 3. And your scenario 2 would have been one where you would have some 1,500 workers going home. Scenario 1, stay as is. Scenario 2, 1,500 workers to go. And scenario 3 is one that would see some 2,400 workers going home. Now, we are seeing where they are saying that it is just 1,700 workers. It is not 1,700 workers. We want to put that on the table this morning. But let us just absorb the fact that we are making the point that the cabinet and the government of Trinidad and Tobago would have fed the incorrect information. They were not privy to a number of facts, and it is upon the basis of incorrect information they would have made a decision. Somebody tell the Prime Minister, or they were told that the board employ professionals, Mackenzie, that made a recommendation, and that recommendation was accepted by the cabinet, and that is what he said. Okay, but let's just look. This is what they shut down the company. They intend to shut down the company on, and this is what the union has for the viability of the company. So 3 slides, as opposed to an in-depth, comprehensive proposal for the not just survivability, but for board and government. Government 3 slides, union comprehensive plan Trinidad and Tobago. I also want to say that it was on the basis of this comprehensive plan presented to everyone, including the board, that we ended up signing a memoranda of agreement dated April the 3rd, 2018. And we are not going to move away from that, because we verily believe, on the basis of the comprehensive and in-depth work that was done, the prescription for the success of Petrotrin comes from activating, implementing this memoranda of agreement dated April 2018. And also, this memoranda of agreement was not given the shadow of an opportunity at all, because we would have agreed to begin in earnest the work, breaking up into committees, and to begin the work in a detailed way to determine what all of those entities would need to make them viable, and ultimately, in its totality, make Petrotrin a viable company. They did not give us that opportunity. Let's make the point. They went somewhere else, and some professional, which they paid for, advised them to go counter to that, and that is what is causing us to be where we are. Now, that proposal that they have will not work. We had advised back early as 2004, 5, 6, the Malcolm Jones administration of Petrotrin, not to get involved in a WGTL venture. That cosmetic program, that super ambitious program, would only satisfy the ambition of the chairman, then Malcolm Jones, and of course one Professor Julian, and certain people in the energy subcommittee. But I want to make this point today for us to remember, sitting in the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, when the decision was made to bad spend the public money, bad invest the public money, sitting in that cabinet as part of that decision was one Keith Rowley. He was part of that decision. So this thing did not start yesterday. The union said then, do not, Mr. Jones, do not go into that bad investment. Instead, use that capital to invest in the most lucrative part of Trinma operation, that is Southwest Soldado, where there are large deposits, large reserves of crude, and not just large reserves of quality, high quality crude, sweet crude. And they disregard those strong advice coming from the union. And then we were vindicated. And then they moved to their journey to excellence. Remember that? Journey to excellence, which had to do with the upgrade of all of the plants at the refinery. And we agreed that the plants must be upgraded to meet the competition, because if we don't be able to perform along with the competition, we could be driven out of the market. So we agreed. Where we disagreed is with the contractors, their friends, that they brought into such high level, high skill requirement, experience, turnarounds requirement, refinery upgrade, experience people needed requirement. They brought in their friends. And there are a couple names that we will share with you after this meeting about their friends. Which friends failed over and over? Major industrial relations problems. Plant upgrades couldn't complete on time. And that was PNM government. Malcolm Jones. Remember that? PNM government, of which Dr. Keith Rowley was a part of. Problems with Samsung, the foreign contractor. Problems with the project management. And to date, as we speak, them and success, this government that succeed with the Minister of Energy, who is talking all sort of nonsense now, they did not do anything to improve or to complete those projects. So, Malcolm Jones started it. Kevin Ramnarine and the government that followed continued it. And now he's talking about the board is correct. You ask him, what did he do when he was a Minister of Energy, when we presented the same plan to him for the viability and the success of Petrotrin? What did he do? Absolutely nothing. But see, everybody only talking now. We were consistently making the point that the advice that we give to the governments, all of the governments, if they heeded that advice, we would have been in a different situation today. We are vindicated, but we are not happy with that vindication, because on every turn when what we say, what we predict comes true, it costs the company and the country money. Hard-earned money that we could have saved. Dr. Rowley would tell you now that, as he told us, it doesn't matter how it starts, because we're in this problem and we have to fix it. Because he wanted to hide the fact that it was the PNM government and himself in the cabinet who was part of that. So when he tell you it doesn't matter how it starts, we have to fix it. Of course we have to fix it. But it matters who was there, because it's the same people that coming back now to put a prescription that would kill the patient financially and finally kill the entire country. So he's coming back now to try to get the support of the public after he was part of the major failure in the government back then. So they ought not to get away with this talk about it a matter and start the conversation now. We have to go back to historically, how did we end up in these problems? And who were the voice, the crying voice in the wilderness, the lone voice that was saying, do not take those approach. And I want to remind everybody, in case they forget, it was the Oilfields Workers Trade Union and the President. They would try to make you believe that it is just 1,700 workers. I saw that being published. That is wrong. That is radically wrong. It is by their scenario number 3 that they are going with, and by the way, they are moving swift ahead to implement this. In that scenario, in the upstream, they are proposing to exit fully 1,700 workers. And in the downstream, that's the refinery, another 1,700 workers. They call them individuals. Look at there. Look at there. So while I tell you something else, their proposal is to, and the figures are not correct, but their proposal is to in summary, exit all of the workers in Petrotrin. That is to say, send home all of the workers in Petrotrin and rehire for the ENP some 800 workers. And for the, where we now have workers working in the refinery, well, of course, shut down the refinery, open some terminaling operation, and hire 200 workers. Send home all 3,500 workers and permanent workers, and rehire 1,000 workers. That's the start of it. What they are not saying also is that by virtue of the significant number of vacancies and persons in those vacant positions, casual temporary employees, which casual temporary employees throughout the company's operation number some 2,000, which 2,000 workers are given an opportunity to rotate into positions, vacant positions on an off basis, but still have the opportunity to earn a bread, have some earnings. An additional 2,000 casual temporary employees will also be immediately impacted. They're not telling you that. What they're also not saying is that some 3,500 contractor employees will also be immediately impacted. Because those contractor employees also rotate on an off basis in an attempt to spread the work and, of course, allow people to have employment and so on. So across the company's operation, 3,500 contractor employees. It is a total of some 9,000 human beings, workers that will be impacted first and foremost directly. Let's just begin to count the consequences. And that is not yet including their families. So when you put the multiplier effect on that, it is some 45,000 people impacted, at an average of 5% per family impacted. Some 45,000 persons immediately, directly impacted by the closure of closing down of this operation. And may I also say that what they are doing is not restructuring. What they are doing, they are closing down Petrotrin's operation if they're allowed to have their way. That is what they are doing. Because it cannot be restructuring. Well, you close down the refinery and send all the workers home. You send all the workers home in the fields, and you still want to have the operations going. And that you now want to have 800 persons in the exploration and production to perform the jobs that some 2,000 plus persons would have been performing. That just can't work. As a matter of fact, for quite some time since they came into office, that board that is, they would have been neglecting important work, causing the production to fall consistently over a sustained period of time, which has now resulted, and we made the presentation last week, which has now resulted in the loss of some 2,000 plus barrels of crude on a daily basis. Lack of maintenance, lack of spares, lack of materials and so on, and lack of manpower, lack of focus and so on, indecisions, all of those things, as if to suggest, we continue to make the point then and now, that they were systematically shutting the operations down. That is what it is about. So this final piece, this final curtain, if it is allowed to come down, they are not restructuring, they are shutting Petrotrin down. And when they shut Petrotrin down, if they are allowed to do that, immediately impacted is some 9,000 workers, plus their families, amounting to some 45,000 persons. And that is by no stretch of the imagination any form of exaggeration and so on. But let us just, let's go a little further and see if it stops there. It does not stop there. Because we are now, in addition to that, the suppliers, the caterers, the manufacturers, the contractors, of course, we mentioned them, all of who will be impacted, the food vendors, the double vendors, the taxis, the maxis. And what about the fence line communities? Palaseco, Erin, Faizabad, Point 14, Los Bajo, Cedros, Labre, Rosilac, Oropouche, Pinal, Barakpur, San Fernando, Marabella, Pleasant Park, St. Margaret's, Claxton Bay. The entire southern basin of the country will be immediately, directly impacted by the closure of Petrotrin. You see, did they consider this? We are certain that they did not consider the consequences of the closure of Petrotrin. And wait, Petrotrin acts as a countervailing force, a sort of a center of gravity to balance this national economy. If you remove that, it is also the national economy that is going to crash as a result of the removal of Petrotrin. Did they consider that? We think not. What we thought is that because we did a comprehensive performance appraisal on this Dr. Rowley-led PNM government, on their failure with the economy, and we see how, if we didn't know that they failed then, look how they're failing now, on the failure of the economy, the failure with crime, failure with education, the failure with health, and the failure generally to govern Trinidad and Tobago since they're in office, because we would have done that fearlessly in the tradition of the spirit of Butler and our ancestors, protected by Almighty God, using the independence that we have consistently, because we would have pointed out the lack of performance of Dr. Rowley and his government. The only thing that he stands to gain is to plunge the country into chaos just to attack or try to get rid of the OWTO. That is what he feels he can achieve from this. It is an act of reprisal, because we can make no sense out of this at all, economically, politically, or otherwise. It is an act of reprisal against OWTO. But let me just say that Dr. Rowley has to be reminded that those who seek to destroy the oilfields workers' trade union will only end up destroying themselves. There's absolutely no way we'll allow this to go. And then you have him and Minister Khan talking about a black hole. And he is coming Sunday to tell you about a black. And if the country, if we didn't shut down Petrotrin, because of the debt Petrotrin has, Petrotrin will take the country down with it. Not considering what we are putting on the table, the true nature of the effect shutting down Petrotrin would be. Well, let me just say to this foolish Franklin Khan, the country wouldn't be placed in any black hole. You saying the country will be placed in a black hole if you shut down Petrotrin, if you leave Petrotrin running, that it will pull down the country? It's a black hole. The whole country will be black if you shut down Petrotrin. In fact, if you don't reverse that decision, the whole blasted country is going to be black. And as I said, this foolishness about kicking the can down the road, every government kicking the can down the road, well, we are prepared to kick him, Franklin Khan, down the road to save Petrotrin. And let's ask this question. Who paid for the medical for Franklin Khan when he was laid up for a considerable period of time? Which medical plan paid for that? Let's just ask that question. Because as we continue to ask the question, when you shut Petrotrin down, where the retirees will get a medical plan to facilitate all of their ailment, because of what they would have given to the country in their earlier productive years. How will the medical plan be sustained? And as I on that, those retirees must be prepared to come with us and to bang down the PNM and the Prime Minister's door. All who are PNM and feel PNM will help you. They are prepared to crush your pension. Your pension is not guaranteed. The biggest pension fund in this country, the Petrotrin Pension Fund, is about to crash because, simply put, if you do not have workers contributing, putting into the pension fund on a monthly basis, but you have people withdrawing from the pension fund, that is a recipe for chaos and crashing of the pension plan almost immediately. So you'll have more people taking out of the bucket and very little or nobody putting anything into it. And the pension plan is going to crash. Your pensions, retirees, I'm speaking directly to you now, your pensions are in jeopardy as we speak if this thing is allowed to go through. And therefore we are saying that the consequences of this, it goes way beyond any $850 million bullet payment. Because when we examine even the credit unions too, the credit unions in this country will be immediately adversely impacted, both in terms of inability to service loans and also inability to save in the credit union. So any which way you look at it, the small man and his institution in this country for which he struggled is under attack. The 1%, they will come in after, claim the refinery under the auspices of some joint venture arrangement with some foreign partner, and they will continue to feed themselves, while the rest of Trinidad and Tobago will continue to go hungry. Trinidad and Tobago. It is not just the Petrotrin workers and those who feel that they can get back at it's good for the Petrotrin workers or the OWTU. When the time comes and you have to suffer the impact of having to pay more for fuels, LPG, and all of those things as a result of the bad decision that the government is making now, then you'll realize what we were saying about that. At that point, it will be too late. Just as we were vindicated with all of the decisions that they made, the wrong decisions, they are about to make another wrong decision. But this one is going to plunge the whole of Trinidad and Tobago into chaos and confusion. And I did not mention the social impact, the upheaval, the industrial relations crisis in the country, the industrial relations instability in the country, that no rating agency will rate this country anywhere near they want it to be rated, because we will be up and down the street. This place will be shaking. No investor will be guaranteed confidence in his investment, because the people are suffering. And as the people of the country are suffering, this place will be shaking more than 6.8, 6.7. It will be shaking more than an 8.9. Yes? The defeat of workers, defeat on the streets, defeat of workers pounding the pavement, pounding the Baba Green, calling out for justice. But most importantly, calling out for the resignation of this government and its Prime Minister. This decision is going to plunge this country into chaos and confusion. They already can't deal with crime. They already cannot deal with the economy. They already cannot deal with health and so on. They already cannot deal with education. They cannot provide jobs for our youth who are qualified. Instead of creating jobs, they are taking away jobs. Since this government came into office, thousands and thousands of jobs have been lost. And they are asking the population now to side with them to take away even more jobs. some 9,000 jobs in the first instance. And of course, the impact that I had outlined that will carry. We are saying that this is a major issue, and on this issue, they must not be allowed to go scot-free. We demand that Dr. Rowley and his government call election now. Don't fool the people. Don't fool the people. Don't fool the people by duping them into belief that the country will crash. This will crash the country. And if you want support, you're brave enough to want support to crash the country, call election now. Let us see the decide. The shutting down of Petrotrain is no simple matter. The economics of that says to us and anybody who have any sense at all, anybody who would have removed their political glasses and looked straightforward at the matter, it would tell them that this economically, socially, industrial relations-wise, while it is going to crash Trinidad and Tobago. We would not escape that. And therefore, it is no hurricane, it is a tsunami of sorts. Yes, and that is what is going to hit us here. So, we are saying, clearly, the union has a plan. That plan has not been given any opportunity. And that for SPNA to say at the close of his announcement, because what he came to do was to announce, not to engage, and the close of that announcement, which announcement embodied what was given approval by Dr. Rowley, you imagine this. In our 56 years of independence, independent Trinidad and Tobago, a prime minister accepts a proposal days before our 56 years of independence celebration, accept a proposal to close down your only single refinery that, if operated properly, will see this country being not flag independent, but economically independent. And that is that is the road we're supposed to be traversing. As we celebrate 56 years of independence, Dr. Rowley, Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Rowley is taking this country back to colonial days. Back to the days, likened to the days when we would have supplied the cocoa, export the cocoa, and buy the chocolate. We are being told that we are going to export crude and buy fuel. Could you imagine that? When we have the capacity, we have the ability and the experience to produce our own fuels, and if we restructure the company, we can do it efficiently, pay our debts, and also export and earn foreign exchange, and so on. And so they are about to take us backwards. We are not going to allow that. If we are to be independent, it's better you lower the red, white, and black and put up the Union Jack, because that is where they're carrying us back. We are proud of our red, white, and black, and we stand patriot. This calls for patriotic men and women getting down to the hard task and doing the work. But we have a lazy prime minister. Lazy prime minister. He reported that around 5:30, he was at home, already getting to go to bed or changing his clothes. Patrick Manning, 5:30 in the afternoon, not any day, wouldn't be at home, he'll be at his office working. Yes. You have a prime minister who already reached home and ready to relax. All of those things are why God probably spoke to us and said, shake up, man, you're not running this country good at all, at all. He's lazy. That is why he accepts this proposal. And of course, he finds within that acceptance, if he could get at the Oilfields Workers Trade Union. Oh, brother. That is not going to happen. We will continue, in spite of this, to point to the inefficiencies and the incompetence of you and your government. And it is the height of incompetence that would have allowed you to come to this decision to allow the board to take down our only refinery and of course shut down your one oil company and plunge the country into chaos and so on. So that is why it is so important for September the 7th. But before I come to that, let me just say, we asked them a number of questions. This fellow who they put in charge of your petroleum company of Trinidad and Tobago, the country's assets, the people's assets, mind you, the government has just been given a job for a period of time to govern properly, to ensure equity and fairness and so on, and to maintain a decent standard of living for its citizens, not to wreak hardship on them. But that is not happening. The latter is the case. Since they came into office, they are doing everything else except which they were given the mandate to do. So they appointed a chairman who knows nothing, and he admitted publicly that he knows nothing about the oil business. But that is the person you're taking the recommendation from for your one oil company. You want to think about that for a while. So when we ask him, on what basis you came to this decision? What were the numbers used? What are the projected figures for exploration and production going forward? Do you expect 800 workers to perform the work of some 2,000 plus workers and get the same amount of production or even more? Those things, he could not answer those. He said, yes, he'll get the same amount of production. What in fact they will be doing with these assets that need human attention, labor intensive, properly well organized and managed to get the best out of them, they will be putting even the environment at risk, you know. Attempting to have 800 persons operate what 2,000 plus operates, they will be putting even the environment at risk. And what about this thing about the package that they are now costing? Did SPNA and Dr. Rowley and they cost what it will cost to send these workers home and put that against your bullet payment? So you're finding money to send workers home, but you can't find money to pay a loan. You just think about that. It's a basic question. So you're going to borrow money, somebody going to borrow money to put workers out of their job, throw the country into chaos because you can't get money to pay your loan. I want to also say this morning that we have information that last week, in the signing of the agreement in Venezuela, a concern was raised by President Maduro and their ministers about what will happen to the refinery and the workers if you close it down. Or, my words, but a particular concern was raised about Petrotrin's future. But even more than that, an offer was extended to some sort of strategic alliance. And that offer, as we see, was turned down. That's the information that we have. So Dr. Rowley needs to answer the question as to why it is that they would not have explored that option, at its very least explored that option, so that we can get into some sort of strategic alliance, some sort of strategic arrangement where we will continue to own our refinery, keep workers employed, but be supplied good quality crude from Venezuela in those discussions. Why he turned that down? We at the OWTU, I also want to announce that we are going to be engaging with some high-level persons in Venezuela in discussions of that nature. If they don't want to do it, we will explore the feasibility of that and come back and tell you that. Because you see, some people have a one-track mind with a one-track agenda. And even as success tear them in their face, they turn away because they are blinded, short-sighted by another agenda. Something has to be wrong with all of this thing here. And let me just say for Dr. Rowley, Franklin Khan, and all of them who are talking that nonsense, even Chantak, that this refinery, this country has always imported crude to operate the refinery. That is nothing new. And I challenge anybody, this union challenge anybody to argue with us against that point. It is nothing new. That this, even the days of Texaco, they would have been importing crude to operate the refinery. That is a fact. So to make it appear as though we're importing crude, and it's a recent thing, that is a damn blasted lie. We cannot trust this government. We cannot trust, a very long time we were saying, you cannot trust Stuart Young. You cannot trust Keith Rowley. You can't trust Franklin Khan. You cannot trust this government at all at their word. They are discredited. They are the ones who sign agreement and break them as if it's going out of style. You cannot trust them. And so when asked, what about the quality? Do you know, Mr. SPNA, what is the quality of the crude that we produce in Trinma and in Land North and East in exploration and production? That 30,000 barrels. Do you know what is the quality of the local crude? What are you going to do with it? They're going to sell it. They'll blow Trinidad and Tobago. The crude that we produce, except with some parts of Trinma. And of course, because they didn't explore Southwest Soldado, where we have the best quality crude, the current stock of crude that we produce has a level of sulfur content that will not make it marketable, which is why it's more profitable to mix it with foreign crude, blend it, refine it, make products, and sell those products on the open market. They will get next to nothing, or even have to dump that because nobody will buy crude with that high sulfur content. And if they are not investing into producing light, sweet crude, well then they will just have crude on their hands that nobody really would want. And that is a fact. The Molo crude that we produce is of a high sulfur content. And that, the only way that that can be made viable and profitable is if we produce more of it, produce more of the light, sweet crude, have a proper mixture coming from locally, reduce the dependence on the foreign crude, purchase less, have your mixture, blend your products and so on, and sell it locally, regionally, and make exchange, foreign exchange as we sell it externally. Their proposal is to find foreign exchange from heaven knows where, that you could hardly get foreign exchange right now for medical purposes or for educational purposes or any serious issue. What will be the case of Trinidad and Tobago when you shut down a company that has the potential to once again produce vast amount of foreign exchange for the country? What will be the situation in Trinidad and Tobago? But you see, one set of people getting foreign exchange, guaranteed, no matter what. One set of people is not the poor man on the streets. You know? And if we think things are hard now, we will be subjected to the vagaries of the price of that fuel that they import from wherever they import it. So if the market says that the price of that fuel is X, we will have to pay X. And what do you think will happen? They will pass that cost on to the consumers. You will feel it at the pumps. And once you feel it at the pumps, the compounding effect of that will go straight through the economy. Those who have eyes to see, let them see. Those who have ears to hear, Let them hear. Dr. Rowley is about to take the country down. It's no black hole. It's the whole country is going to be black if they are allowed to get away with that. And we must not allow them to get away with that. And we also raise the question, what about the National Petroleum Marketing Company, NP? That is a distributor now. Is it that NP is going to import fuel also? Or is it that any local entrepreneur will be allowed to import fuel, given license to import fuel? What is the real plan behind all of this? Number of questions are not being answered. And they are trying to change the conversation with a lot of foolish talk. Let's keep our eyes on the prize. Let's keep them focused on the important questions. But most of all, let us be prepared to do whatever becomes necessary to save Trinidad and Tobago by saving our national island. And of course, at this point, with those type of announcement, if they are allowed to go through with that, we would have nothing to celebrate called independence. Absolutely nothing to celebrate at all. And so we say to you this morning that the OWTU has a number of strategies and plans. We have already seen, and I want to thank publicly the members of the Joint Trade Union Movement of Trinidad and Tobago for their display of strength and solidarity. The trade unions in this country understand the impact not just of sending workers home, but the impact it will have on the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. And the trade union movement is going to have a lot more to say on this and on a number of other issues. But if you don't want to have us at work being productive, producing, raising productivity levels, guaranteeing good ratings for the country, and so on, we will be in the streets, demonstrating for our jobs. And whatever rating you get as a result of you putting us in the streets, you will have to stand the consequences of that. And so we point to September the 7th. September the 7th is a day that we ought to send a message to Dr. Rowley on the 3rd anniversary of being in office. Every citizen who is pained by this decision, who know for a fact they will be impacted adversely by this decision, not just the workers, could quietly, in their own homes, their own spaces, send a message to Dr. Rowley and the government that they are not managing this country right. And in addition to the crime that is completely out of control, the economy that is failing, health, education, and so on, this decision is going to take Trinidad and Tobago down, and therefore you can register your disapproval on September the 7th as a start to what will be a sustained campaign to get rid of Dr. Rowley and the PNM. All the PNM people who believe that the time is yours and your time now and all of this nonsense, and are afraid to tell the emperor that he is without clothes, that he is naked, just as when the earthquake struck. Yes? He is naked in the streets. Tell him put back on his clothes. You're afraid to talk to him. Your party, will lose government because of the actions of Dr. Rowley. And if you think that is a joke, we will ensure that Dr. Rowley and the PNM leave office because they are not serving the interests of all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Their only concern is about 1% of the population. Our responsibility and concern is for everybody in Trinidad and Tobago. So we want to end these presentations here this morning by saying that we are firm in our resolve. We are going to fight this issue. We are also saying that our discussions at the level of National Tripartite Advisory Council is making very little or no sense. We cannot be involved in NTAC and talking while they're sending workers home, while workers alone have to bear the brunt of the burden of sacrifice, while employers continue to have a field day, while the government is not leading by example. The only example they set is to send thousands of workers home. We are currently reviewing, and we will make an announcement soon as to our position in NTAC. If NTAC is not serving the interests of the labor movement and the workers in this country, then the labor movement have no right to be in NTAC at all. So we are considering that. And all of those things would give good credit rating for the country, good stability for the country. But the government is provoking the wrath of the workers in this country right now. And we are going to respond, the likes of which they did not anticipate at all. That the board was contacted by a particular financer, which financer was prepared to finance the bullet payment, finance the debt of the company, and to make some sort of financial investment into the future of Petrotrin. Now, we don't know the exact nature of those proposals. It has to be examined. If you are looking for finances or payment and you're really serious and patriotic about what you want to do, and there's a lot of finances across the globe right now, financiers looking for a place to put their capital and so on, right now, you can't find financing. If you are very serious, you would have sat down and examined that proposal, or every proposal that come to you and appeared to be serious. That was our information. It was dismissed by members of the government and also by the board and its chairman. But we are going to get more information on that as we go forward. You see, our position is that no effort must be spared to ensure that this company return to viability while at the same time keeping workers at work. That is not their approach. Their approach is to shut it down and wait and see. Wait and see. These assets that they would keep idle for a while, wait and see who will step in with a proposal to take it dog cheap. You wait and see Trinidad and Tobago. And you must not allow Dr. Rowley to perpetrate that on yourselves as decent and law-abiding citizens in this country. We must not allow that. We are preparing for the long haul. We are preparing for all types of eventualities. We are not today going to announce what are our strategies and tactics and so on, but rest assured, we have them. And when the dust is cleared, on the one hand, if we allow them to go through this, you will end up with owning nothing, purchasing everything from outside, extreme hardship on the country, while the 1% would have everything. That is if we allow that. On the other hand, because we are not going to allow that, when the dust is cleared, we will have a Petrotrin, I assure you. We will have a viable petroleum company of Trinidad and Tobago being able to once again make its contribution to the national economy. But we will not have a people's national movement. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any questions?
But they want to partner with OWC in order to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, he's just Let's talk about it. Yeah. They are spreading misinformation. Currently, they have people trying to put together packages. Now, they did not cost that before, you know. One would have thought that you'd have put a cost to what it costs you to send the workers home, because through the law, by virtue of the law and the collective agreements, workers are entitled to a level of remuneration if they are being severed. So that's a huge cost. It's no small cost. So exactly what that costs, he couldn't say, and he can't say. They are now putting that together. But they are working steadfast to take the refinery down and to shut the operation down. But they are doing that by also asking the same workers to assist them to shut the refinery and the operation down. So what madness? Who could ever conceive a plan like that? Yeah? The man is not right in his head.
So what is going to happen to, based on your understanding, what's going to happen to Dr. and
Anybody's guess. The medical plan is that we currently employ to service the workers and the retirees and so on. That medical plan will immediately crash. It will go into ruins. The retirees will not be afforded proper medical attention going forward if they are allowed to do that. Pensions will also be in jeopardy. Those who are currently enjoying pensions and those who are about to enjoy pensions. Because you do not have workers to contribute to the plan, to sustain it. Investment is down. Investment in the plan invests its capital into various instruments of investments, both foreign and local. And as you know, the investment climate right now is at an all-time low. So if you're not getting returns on your pension funds through investment, and you don't have workers contributing to the fund, but you have more people taking out of that fund, it is going to crash. It's like more people dipping out of the bucket and nobody putting into the bucket. Very soon it will crash. It will be empty.
So what would be happening with the
Workers at Trinidad, everybody will be sent home.
We just said that.
Yes, all of them will be sent home. That's their plan. That's what they presented. You know. Yeah. No self-respecting, competent, patriotic prime minister will accept any proposal from any chairman that comes to him, especially on the eve of independence, and tell him that he wants to send 3,000 workers home. No self-respecting prime minister will accept that. A different patriotic prime minister would have told SPNA, you go back and do your homework and find some other answer, rather than bringing hardship on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But because he's lazy, he accepts all of these proposals that in the end will cause chaos and confusion in this country. I don't know who is afraid to tell Dr. Rowley that he's lazy, he's incompetent. But the independence of this OWTU, founded on our tradition, gives us the opportunity to tell all governments, past and present, that they are wrong if they are going wrong, condemn them if they needed to be condemned, congratulate them if they needed to be congratulated, but to speak the truth to all of them fearlessly, without fail. So we were not afraid to tell Kamala that she was going wrong and take action on it. So who the hell is Dr. Rowley? We're going to take action on this. We're going to take action on this. Yeah? And all those deceitful people who would have jumped and whined and misbehaved and glad, the PNM people, when we were taking action not too long ago, prepare yourselves, because your Prime Minister is about to take you back into opposition. Prepare yourself.
Do
Yeah?
you also think that sports and culture was also given the role of
Exactly. That is part of the national community impact it will have. Because they can no longer, if it's not existing, it can no longer fund or support or sponsor anything. It just can't. Did you hear what SPNA said when he was told by the mayor of San Fernando about the contribution that these companies, that Petrogen could make to PAN? He dismissed that.
Yes.
So culture, sports will be impacted. Our investment in culture and sports will be impacted. And may I also remind everybody that the Petrogen workers pay tax, and a significant contribution through PAY, yeah? They are in the highest tax-paying brackets. So the country gets revenue through their PAYE, through these employees, pay as you earn. Yeah? PAYE, yes. And NIB will be impacted. All of these things, health surcharge will be impacted because you do not now have workers productively at work and paying into all of these different entities and so on. Yeah? They did not calculate that. So the full breadth of calculation was not done. They did not do their homework. And that is why we are saying that the Prime Minister is a lazy son of the soil.
Government and at the board level, when you have presented that proposal,
Yes.
and they all ignored it, that you're indicating now you signal the intention of you to fight back. You're not taking this line. What convinces you that they would, consider it at this point in time, at this level?
Well, we are, first of all, presenting the scenarios to the country. What will happen if they don't take it, if they don't take a different approach. So we will be vindicated, except to say that it will be at a huge cost. Not making us happy, but we will be vindicated. We are certain about that. Because as I traversed the paths that we took before, earlier on in my discussion here, every step of the way, everything we said came to pass at huge expense to company and country because they did not listen. And this too will be no exception. And therefore we are saying that at this point in time, what is required is really a sort of a national discussion on this. It cannot be left up to Dr. Rowley alone to plunge us into chaos. When they leave office, because they would leave office, they would leave the country in ruins and chaos, And therefore, it is incumbent on the citizens to call the government to account on this issue right now. Don't let them get away with it. If we are saying that our figures, our data, our information is sound, and they are saying theirs is also sound, let us have a public examination of both of them and let the public see what the union is saying and let the public see that flawed approach that they are taking right now. Because I want to, for yet another time, we cannot overemphasize the point. When they leave office, they will leave the country in more ruins than they met it, Because they are going to leave office, if only on this issue at all. The PNM will not return to government, to govern this country, and it will never return again. They're taking this line now. These workers, these 45,000 persons come from various communities and carry huge influence. Workers are voters.
That's right.
Workers are voters. And let me just remind the PNM people, because I'm talking directly to them now. He is saying that he don't care to go back in government. He will tell you that. He's saying that regular. Yeah. So he is prepared to take the party out of government together with him. They should take note of that. We're not taking this line down at all. You know why? Because we verily believe it's not the correct position to take for the country. We cannot be talking about patriotism and independence and so on, and we're taking this road, man. No, it is wrong.
There was a suggestion, I think this is that they could have proposed a bailout similar to what they would have offered before. Is that a consideration?
We are saying that the government did not consider the full breadth of consequences in this, and also they did not consider enough options to arrive at this solution. There are a number of scenarios that they could consider, and one that we feel that should have been properly well considered, in fact, implemented, is the only question of the OWTO's Memorandum of Agreement. Because it is inside of that we would have been addressing all of the issues, including how do we now deal with the financing and so on. How do we deal with the issue of inefficiencies at various stages? accountability, health and safety, all of those things. But we were not given an opportunity. And it is wrong, it is wicked, it is unfair, it is disrespectful to have the recognized majority union come up with a plan, which plan has the input of all of the workers, and then you just disregard that and you're going with some consultant's recommendation to close down at great cost to close down. Because, you know, you could get consultant to tell you what you want to hear. Yeah, you could pay them to tell you what you want them to tell you. Yeah?
SPA had put out it's out there that the OWT knew all along the situation with Petrotrin, that it needed restructuring, it was losing money, all of that. Yet, every time the OWT came to the negotiating table, they were just demanding more and more and more.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. The wage increase that we would have struggled for in 2016, 2017? Yeah. We said from the inception that the company can afford it, but the company has to be reorganized, restructured properly. So it is not, we were not asking for that in a vacuum. We were also addressing the inefficiency issues and so on in the company's operation. Every area of the company operation, we were telling them how they can save, how they can make more production, how they can earn more revenue at the same time. Because if you have workers at work having to face the same economy where everybody else gets increase, and working in a company where you are increasing the fortunes of the company to be able to contribute to the national economy, it is only reasonable that those workers be given an adjustment because they are putting their shoulders to the wheel. But the problem with Petrotrin consistently is that we have always, it has always been politicized. People who don't know anything about the company's operation are at the helm of the company operation. And if you saw that that would have changed with Dr. Rowley, it is at its worst now because the man admits he don't know anything about the oil company, but yet still he is making recommendation to close down the company. But if you don't know anything about something, you must make recommendation to close it down. Because that's the best recommendation that he can come up with to close it down, because he cannot get down to the proper engagement to do the hard work. It is hard work, but we are prepared to do it. The proper engagement of restructuring, making more efficient and so on, and of course, determining how you're going to discharge all of your debts and so on. We take absolutely no blame at all. We reject that out of hand, because the problems of Petrotrin is that not only that people are in those top positions are paid huge sums, you know, general manager or president and so on, vice president. Not only that, you know, what is worse? They don't know what they're doing. So if you have somebody occupying a position, I mean, what could be more evident for the population Trinidad and Tobago, except those who with this red-colored, red-tinted glasses, and they just can't see, red eyes, they just can't see that SPNA is incompetent. He does not know. But yet still the Prime Minister accepts recommendation from a man who says publicly that he do not know about the oil industry. So what could be worse than that? And that is contributing, that has been consistent, the modus operandi of Petrotrin. Yeah? But the union has been consistent in pointing that out for whoever wants to listen. It has come to a head now, and we're going to do more than pointing it out. SPNA don't live in Trinidad and Tobago, you know. Yeah. 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 Let's check that. Robert Riley don't live in Trinidad and Tobago, you know. They are not patriots, you know. He boasts his family is, SPNA that is, he boasts that his family is out of the country. So when Trinidad and Tobago, collapse, they are out. We have to, when it goes in the ashes, we have to pick it up. They are out. Yeah.
So, Mr. Boji, it seems as though the union is going to battle based on the announcement by the chairman of the Petrotrin.
He said we're going to battle?
Well, the union is going to battle because of the announcement of the closure avoid that from happening, of a closure of Petrochim, what do you think? Could that be reneged?
What is that?
Do you think this decision made by this board could be reversed?
Of course, that is our position, that they have to reverse that in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, they must reverse that. And we are calling on the population to understand the impact this would have if it is allowed to go through. And it is not just the 9,000 Petrochin employees who will be directly impacted. It is the national community that will be adversely impacted as a result of this closure. I did make the point that Petrochin is as a countervailing force balancing the economy through its contribution coming from the workers to credit union funds, pension funds, and so on. And of course, through the ability of the company to contribute to earning foreign exchange for this country. If you pull that countervailing balancing force out of the equation, the economy will collapse. It is no rocket science. It will. The only thing that will be bad about that is that it will be too late. So we are warning them up front. Let us get down to the task of looking at other options to ensure that the company keeps running. That's what we're talking about. And there are other options. Pretense of SPNA is what is leading the cabinet to take this decision. And who is the, let's ask ourselves, who are the accountants in the cabinet? Help me. Help me, who are the accountants? Is Stuart Young an accountant? He speaks in the Prime Minister, eh? Is the Prime Minister an accountant? He's not an accountant. Is Franklin Cannon an accountant? He's not an accountant. Is Imbert an accountant? He's not even a good engineer. Huh? Yeah. Keep Jenny far from all of this. Because she has no help at all. She's absolutely no help.
What is the minister, as you mentioned, Jennifer, what is the minister of labor?
That's a good question.
You ask her, we don't know.
That's a good question. That's a good question. But she is probably contemplating opening up some agency to give them jobs to go and pick apples or so. Yeah, probably, I don't know. She's totally silent on this. But she was ever present with Keith Rowley around the round table. Yeah. But she's silent now. Very, very silent. Yeah? Yes. Everything was wrong for her then. Every Sunday morning on the radio. Yes? On a program called Showdown or something like that.
Showdown.
Yeah. Every Sunday morning that God sent, she on the radio criticizing MacLeod, criticizing Kamla. But where are you now, Minister of Silence? Where are you now? You are worse than Errol MacLeod. Every Sunday that God sends, wherever you go, criticizing Kamla, criticizing Ramnarayan, well, they're supposed to criticize here, and they're supposed to criticize all of them. But now, given the opportunity, put you down in the driver's seat, shoe on the other foot. Nobody must criticize them. No. Well, I don't know. I want to say to I-95, get a vacancy for your showdown program because Jennifer coming back right there to talk. Yeah, coming back right there. Yeah. For whoever chooses to listen. We want to thank you very much. Fasten your seatbelt, Trinidad and Tobago. It's going to be a rough ride going forward. We're going to have some problems for fuel, both now and if they're allowed to get through. Prepare yourselves for some challenges in acquiring fuel. Prepare yourself for some hardship that will come as a result of the consequences of these decisions that the government is making. But prepare yourself for the labor movement in including the Alphys Workers Trade Union, to do whatever is necessary to save Trinidad and Tobago. Are you okay? Do what?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
You're right thinking.
yes, all right thinking people, all people who are sensible, except the political hacks, because you'll always have people who are political sycophants and so on, who can't see beyond anything objectively. We cater for that, we know that. We have always had that, we will always have that. There's nothing that you and I could do to prevent somebody from being a sycophant. We can't help them. But we have to do what we have to do. Yeah? Thank you very much.